Hello everyone, this is Pal Ponder on Weather. In this update, we're going to be talking about a November snowstorm followed by several cold blasts as we'll walk you through the next 7 days so you can plan ahead and keep well ahead of the storm. So let's take a look at the overall satellite picture this morning. You can actually see it's pretty clear out west, but all the area of action is going to be around this upper level low that's coming out of New Mexico, ringing out some snow showers this morning. That has now shifted into Texas, where they do have some snow breaking out of the Texas panhandle. It's just going to be a chilly rain today in Texas. And further to the south, we are looking at some marginally enhanced thunderstorms that could get out of hand and could have some spin up tornadoes or even some water spouts down here further to the south. But there's also a northern branch too, so where we have some snow showers this morning in portions of Minnesota and Iowa. But yeah, the temperatures are cold this morning. Here's some morning low temperatures across the lower 48, widespread 20s and 30s showing up on the map. So we got plenty of colder air in place, but further to the south where that 63 is in Houston, that's this, going to be the culprit of some of the warmer air turning around the southwest winds. That's going to create a little bit more instability in the atmosphere, but you can already see it's snowing in the Texas panhandle at 30 degrees, and that's where the snowstorm is going to be taking place. But here's your overall snow depth where we stand right now. This is where the snow is actually on the ground, and yeah, it's pretty elevated right now in portions of North Dakota, where Bismarck picked up that 17 inches of snow the other day. So, but we're going to be laying down some snow in this area. This snowstorm could actually travel some 2,000 miles, believe it or not. But yeah, we've got winter weather advisories in portions of New Mexico and portions of the Texas Panhandle, getting into western Oklahoma, as well as portions of Kansas here, getting into Missouri, as well as into Arkansas. And we do have a little notch here that even a winter storm warning. So all the areas that are in purple could actually see about 1 to 3 inches of snow. And all these areas in the pink shaded area, you're looking at about 4 to 6 inches later on this afternoon in Oklahoma, believe it or not. So, but it's got plenty of cold air coming. This is the overall temperature anomalies over the next week, and this is rare to see the entire lower 48 basically below average and kind of well below average, if that. And all the areas to the north are above average in Alaska and Greenland. So this is kind of a unique setup that it's going to be unfolding over the next 7 days. And that's Arctic air will continue to press southbound. But today, going through about 4 o'clock time frame, like I mentioned this morning, it's ringing out some rain into a good part of Texas, especially once you hit into North Texas and Central Texas. By the time we get into, say, 4 o'clock this afternoon, all these areas in green should light up the map in East Texas, coming out of North Texas by then. So you're looking at about a 4 to 6 hour window. But some heavier snows will be breaking out of the Texas Panhandle, especially in western Oklahoma. That's where they've got that winter storm warning in place. I think the demarcation line is right around Oklahoma City. They could have a little bit of a dry slot there, but more significant amounts have really elevated to that 4 to 6 inches in places like Clinton, Oklahoma. But further to the south, you can actually see some reds popping up. That's the indication of these thunderstorms could be a little bit stronger. That could actually dump some marginal type hail in this area with that cold air aloft. And some of these areas could look at possibly an isolated spin up tornado. So that's why they've got that 2% chance of kind of a water spout or a little isolated spin up tornado down here into the afternoon hour, filtering in portions of south of Houston here, as well as into portions of New Orleans. So definitely be on the lookout for that. But further to the north, we're going to be tracking our snowstorm. So by the time we get into, say, midnight time frame tonight, everything should be moving out of Texas and Oklahoma. That upper level low will be shifting into portions of Kansas by then, dumping some light to moderate snow and a good chunk of Missouri there. That's why they've got sporadic winter weather advisories in place. But further to the south, that heavier rain will shift, especially the further south you go along the coast. We could be looking at some heavier rain, but further to the north, a little bit lighter amounts as you head into Mississippi and Alabama and going into portions of western Tennessee. But as we go through time and go through your Tuesday morning time frame, getting into about mid-morning, that upper level low will continue to lift up to the northeast and right around the backside, ringing out that snow showers from our northern side of the storm into Iowa, going into Wisconsin, as well as into Michigan here, going into Illinois, places like into Chicago could be looking at, say, 1 to 2 inches from this system. Filtering into Indiana, some of these places had some fairly decent snow the other day, about 6 inches in portions of Indiana. You're going to be looking at more snow for you guys. But further to the south, it's all rain in Kentucky and Tennessee and Mississippi and going into Georgia and South Carolina, as well as into North Carolina. That'll be on a Tuesday morning. But as we move through time, going into your Tuesday night time frame, it looks to be a little bit more significant. So we'll have that wraparound moisture on the backside, bringing out some leftover snow showers into the upper Great Lakes region, coming out of Michigan. But then that upper level low will be setting up shop over off the coast of into the Atlantic here off the East Coast. That'll pull a little bit more instability, a little bit more moisture. It's going to be all rain in a good chunk of North Carolina into Virginia, heading into places like Delaware and New Jersey, getting up into portions of New York here. But all for our interior regions, going into Pennsylvania, I think Pittsburgh misses out on this. But once you go further to the north, it should start transferring to all heavy snow in that neck of the woods up into Pennsylvania, and that'll filter into portions of upstate New York as we get deeper into Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. So we could be looking at a fairly decent heavy snow event, especially further to the north. We're talking places like, further north, extreme upstate New York, getting into Vermont and New Hampshire, heading into Maine. Could be just all rain on the south side, but definitely concerned right in the middle, right in this warmer section, that we could be looking at some ice trying to take shape as we get to the morning time frame. So it's going to be a nasty travel setup as you get into your Wednesday morning. So definitely allow extra time up here, because the roads are going to be a treacherous travel, especially as you go through the northern side of portions of New England here. So let's take a look at the overall instability over the next 2 days as far as the rain will be taking place, as these aren't like, say, amounts, but just kind of shows you where the deeper reds are and some of the purples here. That has a little bit more instability in the atmosphere and could have the possibility of some heavier rains. And as you shift further north, once you go into, say, the oranges, especially in the yellows, that's your lighter rain, or at least precipitation. And then, of course, your lightest precipitation would be in your green sections. So this goes to show you over the next 2 days between now and, say, Wednesday morning, where all the precipitation will be. And there's not a drop out west. But there's snow. Here's your overall snow out of that precipitation. So we could be looking at, again, those winter weather advisories look predominantly about 1 to 3 inches. Where you see this purple area, that we could be looking at a bullseye. Right now, we've got 4 to 6 inches in parts of western Oklahoma, but some of these areas, it definitely has the potential to kind of overperform with this type setup. Right around that, it'd be really isolated. So some of these areas, could be looking at maybe 8 inches maxing out into portions of western Oklahoma here. Then that will filter into portions of Missouri. Not everybody gets it widespread in Missouri, but a good 1 to 3 inches where you see the blue shaded areas. But once you go up into Iowa, going into Minnesota and Wisconsin, up into Michigan here, but especially as you go towards the Ohio Valley into Indiana and Ohio, you get some snow, but it won't be as significant because most of this will be traveling over in the daytime hours. So unfortunately, you'll be missing out on some of the snow from this system. Most of this will be in the form of rain. But once you get up into northern portions of Pennsylvania, New York, and heading up into Vermont, New Hampshire, that's where we could be looking at some more significant totals in all these areas. We could be looking at some, again, widespread 1 to 3 inches at least in this area, but some isolated spots of 4 to 6, and can't even roll out some 6 to 10 inch totals in some of these isolated spots up here into upper portions of New England. But also a concern is the ice that's going to be setting up over a good chunk of the Northeast here. So definitely a treacherous travel as you get into your kind of Wednesday morning, and Wednesday should be a nasty day up here with all that snow and then rain on the south side. And then we'll have that ice to deal with as well. So definitely take extra precautions going into the day on Wednesday and heading into Wednesday night up here in the Northeast. But once you get back into Thursday morning, here's the upper level low coming out of New Brunswick here. On the back side of it, you'll have that northwest wind taking shape. That is going to set the stage for a potential significant lake effect snow event up here into portions of, say, Buffalo, heading into Watertown. So it could start as early as Wednesday night, but especially during the day on Thursday, heading up into Thursday night and Saturday, as we'll have a renewed shot of Arctic air filtering in our northern states coming on Friday. So that'll keep the northwest wind alive, and that significant snow lake effect snow event alive as well. So you could be looking at some pretty significant totals by the time you end of the week in portions of Buffalo here. So definitely be on the lookout for that, with that potential heavy lake effect snow event. But as we get into Friday, so as we transfer into Friday, we'll have a renewed push of Arctic air. And this will be probably the coldest temperature so far of the season. So it's been fairly cold, but it's even going to get colder as we have this renewed surge of Arctic air that's going to be filtering in from the Arctic and pressing southbound all the way into our central states by the time we get into the weekend. It's all complements of these teleconnections that we've been looking at this, with the EPO. So right now, this is the 14th, right? So this is going to take a significant dive southbound. I mean, it's very rare to see such a negative deviation, and it stays negative for an extended period of time from the 15th through the 19th. So that part time frame should be some of our coldest temperatures so far of the season. We do try to rebound as we head towards your Thanksgiving week, but it's not a significant rebound, but we go towards neutral as we get towards, say potentially after Thanksgiving time frame. But what's also looking at is your WPO. That actually goes negative as well. So that's why we have all teleconnections essentially basically negative or below average, meaning that's why we're going to remain cold for an extended period of time for at least the next 7, potentially 10 days. But more longer term, looking at this with the WPO going negative, that over time we are trending the EPO going positive back towards, at the end of the month, beginnings first week of December. But I think with the WPO going negative here, that's kind of a leading indicator. So if we do try to warm up for, say, at least rebound, it looks to be short-lived. That's what I'm looking at right now, and it looks to be short-lived. So we might have a kind of a little bit of a warm-up towards Thanksgiving and beyond, but it definitely looks to be short-lived, and we could be pressing cold again by the time we get deeper into that first week of December. But more concerning is further into Friday time frame. So with that renewed Arctic push, right? So here's the significant change. We've been talking about this southern jet stream actually been active for the last 7 to 10 days. So by the time we get into Friday, it's going to put a little brakes on the actions as this high pressure builds into the Pacific. That's going to dry out some of the southern jet stream. So as this Arctic air pushes southbound, fairly significant, Arctic air is your driest air. So that's going to eat away a lot of the precipitation that's not in place now. And it won't be with this renewed surge of Arctic air pressing southbound by the time we get into Friday. So what we look at the surface map, so with that, we got plenty of cold air by Friday. We got 1042 Arctic high pressure, 1044 at 1034 over Oklahoma for November. That's some chilly stuff. 540 line right across the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But where's the precipitation? With that southern jet stream, with the tap shut off, it doesn't have much to work with. So we could be looking at more snow showers into portions of Texas Panhandle, into Kansas, into portions of Oklahoma again. But for the most part, the drier Arctic air will eat away at a lot of that moisture content, and not with that southern branch to tap into. It's not going to be much precipitation to work with as we extend with that second renewed push of Arctic air. So by the time we get into Saturday morning, plenty of cold air in place, but you can see across the board, there's not much precipitation to work with within that Arctic air. And beyond that, as we go to Monday, we remain cold. So for the next week, we do remain cold. But by the time we get into Thanksgiving week, I do feel that push as the EPOs will start to go neutral. That'll eventually push the colder push of air towards our northern northeast states, while we start to build, we start to kind of rebound into in our western states, and this will propagate slowly as we go through Thanksgiving week. So, but here's your overall precipitation for the next 7 days. It's bone dry out west. The taps have shut off for sure. But once you get into our central US, and especially when you hit the Gulf of Mexico and they've got that little moisture to work with, boom, you got the winds turning around and you got that ring out precipitation. So that's what's going to be felt today in a good part of Texas with those higher amounts right along draped along the coastline here. But really, it's all along really the coastline. You got a little bit higher instability, higher, a little bit higher rain amounts, but less amounts as you push further north. And it's fairly dry out west. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update, why I protect you before and after the storm.